Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we ran a test flight of this and we learned that this wiggles back and forth quite a lot. So I want to do some strutting here. I want to do a strut from here to like here if we can. Yeah, it connects there. Beautiful. We'll do one over here as well. And the back one did not connect that time. Okay, that connected. Beautiful. And I'm going to do... Oh, that doesn't like to work. Okay. We'll just put one here. Ooh, I do not like that. Okay. We'll just do something kind of like that. Now, these are strutted together up here, so they should be solid up here, as long as this base is solid. Cool. That should hopefully stop that rocking motion that we saw. That rocking motion did not defeat MechJeb. And actually, off camera, I ran another test just a moment ago where I determined that this was going to be possible. Or rather, not possible, but rather, not strictly speaking necessary, but a good change to be made. And in that test, interestingly, this thing passed some really crazy turning stress tests with flying numbers. The vector gimbals are insane. So that's absolutely great. We're going to throttle up, we're going to kill rot, and up we go. Okay, it's definitely more stable. I think we've still got some wiggling going on there. But it's certainly way, way more stable than it was. No doubt about that. So that's looking phenomenal. We're moving at about 100 meters per second here, and we should probably consider getting some horizontal speed soon. This thing's a little slower than our usual craft. This is at a 1.5 thrust to weight off the pad. So I think I'm going to take this up to about 200 meters per second before we start heading on over. So let's start making our way this direction. And getting some horizontal speed here. I'm going to go into orbital mode. Cool. And we're just going to head on over towards that prograde marker, which as you can see is already up over the 45-degree marker. And as you can see, this thing is really very stable. Remarkably so. Maybe a little overstable, actually. So we're just going to park about here for now. I don't love our apoapsis height, so we're just going to be getting some horizontal speed, but we need a lot more verticality here. Not really vertical speed exactly, but we need to punch up that apoapsis height, which is exactly what we're going to do. When are our side boosters going to fall off? In about 20 seconds here. Okay. So I'm keeping an eye on that apoapsis height. It's about 22 kilometers right now. That definitely needs to go up higher. Current thrust to weight is approaching 3, which is good. But that is going to drop markedly once these fall off, of course. We're not pulling any central fuel just yet. So we've got about 5 seconds left here. What is our... Okay. Let's head over towards the prograde marker now. Cool. And separate. Clean separation. I like it. And we're just punching up our apoapsis height here. Yeah, these guys are going to blow up a bit and crash into each other. That's to be expected. No major issues there. And we can see our thrust to weight's a lot lower. There's no doubt about that. We're picking up a bit of a shimmy here, which I don't love to see. But we'll just try to hold here, and as we get through the atmosphere, it should get a little better. These gimbals might be a little overcorrecting. Yeah, the shimmy is definitely picking up. There's no doubt about that. We're not out of the atmosphere yet, though, so we're just going to keep hovering here for the moment. We're at about 60 kilometers for our altitude. This is a very, very heavy payload, for the record. This is incredibly heavy. And very low thrust to weight. It's going to be very, very low thrust to weight once we get out there. So we're now seeing an apoapsis height of almost 70 kilometers. Once we hit 50 here, I'm going to ditch this fairing, which should help us dramatically. That fairing is very heavy. Okay. Fairing is out of here, and we can see the wiggling that's still going on here. Yeah, that's definitely the issue there. We'll just hold here until we hit 100 kilometers. We're very close to it. 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100. Okay. So we're going to start drifting off here. Eventually, we'll be able to take back control with our reaction wheel, but for the time being, it's a bit tough. So we're going to add a maneuver in here, and we'll get ourselves circularized. That looks decent there. Yep, that'll do the trick. We're going to head on over towards the node. How are we doing on power? Oh, we're fine on power. We've got lots and lots of power, which I suppose is to be expected. And now we're in space, so now we should be starting to head back over towards this node. It's going to be a very slow process. I'm going to physics warp, and you can see we are definitely turning. Beautiful. Why is this cap of this pipe still white? That's... I kind of hate that. Okay, so about 1 minute here until we fire up our engines again. I'm thinking about disabling the gimbal on these. I think they're a little overkill now that we're in space. I just don't want that shimmy to be starting up again, right? So we're just going to lock those, and we're going to warp on forward a little bit here. 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Yeah, I think this is the right call. So that'll be fine. Do these have an alternator on them? Oh yeah, they absolutely do. So that'll be okay. We're going to have a decent amount of fuel left in this for our escape burn. And we can see we're actually drifting away here. But this is fine. This will get us into orbit. Okay, we're in orbit now. So from here, I want to go over to prograde. And it looks like we probably want to have, like, at least 2 of these to still be gimbaled. Something like this. Okay. So with those still being gimbaled, at the periapsis here, well, we want to be going, like, kind of towards the sun, right? So right about here, we would push on out. And this is going to be a relatively hefty push here. How close do we want to go for our dropping? Well, here's the thing. It's going to be a lot of delta V no matter what. I think we might go to be just inside of the Moho orbit, something kind of like this. And then we'd brake and circularize here, which is going to be a lot of delta V, but we should be able to pull that off. And then we'll have to try to hit opposite sides here. Now, we can't just fall straight in, I don't think. I don't think we have the delta V for that. We'll see how this ends up looking. For the time being, we should certainly consider extending at least a couple of solar panels. I'm going to extend the ones that are on the outside of each of these craft. There we go. The ones that are on the inside, of course, should not be extended at this time. So that'll be fine. Let's align for this burn. And it's going to be a pretty long one, a 10-minute burn, apparently. Now, a lot of that's going to be on this tank, right? So we'll have some delta V left over in this tank for that. And these guys here, I'm pretty sure they have fuel flow. This is claiming 5 seconds of burn for them. I'm not 100% on that. Maybe we should double check that before we leave here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick save here. We are going to return to this quick save either way, but I want to just make sure that these are going to work. If they're not going to work, then we can send a servicing mission. So we'll decouple this right now. And yeah, it's fine. It's just not showing up correctly. So that's about 10,000 delta V. So we're going to not revert this flight. We're going to reload the quick save that we literally just made. I just wanted to ensure that we were going to have that fuel flow, and that looks absolutely great. So with that fuel flow there, we are aligned for this burn, and we're going to warp our way on over. Cool. You know, we could have used an engine plate for this connector. That might have been a smarter way to do it. Of course, then these would have been closer together. This is basically the perfect distance apart. So, no, I think this is probably the best solution. It's just a little wiggly. It'll be fine. So we'll see how it is with 2 engines gimbaling here. We'll warp forward a little further. 30 seconds, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay. So with just 2 engines gimbaling, we appear to be holding attitude relatively well. So that's great. Now, we note this periapsis thing. That is currently dropping, and time to periapsis is about 2 minutes in the future. We'll try to make sure that that doesn't go too low. In fact, I'm going to cut this burn now, and we're going to warp forward a bit here. I don't want to dip into the atmosphere. Yes, this is delaying the burn. I'm aware of that. So we're just going to come on down here until we're basically at the periapsis, and then we're going to recommence this burn. There we go. Now we're not going to go, well, I think we're not going to go into the atmosphere. Let's just go past the periapsis here to be sure. There we go. Now we're past the periapsis, and this tank is dry, so we're going on this single wolfhound. And the single wolfhound has really low thrust to weight, right? 0.24. Actually, that's not that bad of thrust to weight. It's very efficient, and we're just going to push our way out here. Does this have gimbal? Yes. Does it have an alternator? Yes. So all that is good. And this is going to be about a 10-minute burn at this point. Now, because we delayed it, it's going to be slightly awkward, but there we go. There's an escape trajectory, and we're bringing this right on down. Looks great. So once we arrive here, it's going to be a pretty hefty braking burn. That's probably going to run this wolfhound tank dry, most likely. And we'll keep these together, and we'll just manually separate these out and deploy them like that. So that's the plan for now. Cool. And then these guys are going to decelerate as best they can and try to come down on roughly opposite sides of Kerbal. We're going to try to target like the north side and the south side here. So that should be absolutely great. And we've still got about 6 minutes left in this burn. Now, we're under physics warp, so it's not going to be too bad, but that's still over about a minute. Yeah, that's going to be a bit. Like a minute and a half. Cool. Well, we're definitely out of here at a pretty rapid pace. We're now at 3,300 meters per second. And we're continuing to accelerate by a lot. We've got another kilometer per second to go here. We can see we're already well past the orbit of Eve. We're passing the orbit of the Life Refueler. And we do, of course, have these RA-100 relay antennas, and I chose those not necessarily for their relay capabilities, because these are not intended to survive, but just because they have incredibly long range, which is what we want here. About 700 meters per second left to go in this burn, and we appear to be very stable now that we're on our Wolfhound engine, so that is phenomenal. And of course, we've got this reaction wheel here, so that's all looking good. No major stability issues. 575 meters per second to go. We're still accelerating. We're going to be hitting about 4.1 kilometers per second of orbital velocity over Kerbin here. We're not going to be having a moon encounter, so that's good. And goodbye, Kerbin. It's going to be a pretty rapid trip. Moving this close to the sun is, of course, high velocity maneuvers, right? Very, very high delta V to maneuver down here. It'd be kind of easier if we were heading up this way. It would be kind of easier. But we're not, and that's absolutely fine. So we don't actually care about this exact orbit, especially since we delayed it. I just wanted to get it down to about the right point here, and we're really, really close at this time. It's not going to be the exact orbit because of the delay, but I think this is good enough. So we'll save that 160 meters per second, and then we're going to be looking to, let's focus on the sun here. Let's look at what it's going to cost to circularize this. It's going to be pretty expensive. Okay, we have 3602 here. So a full-on circularization is going to be a little more than we can afford. About 5K. However, we can go here. Just burn out everything that we can out of this tank, and then do something like that. Then we can work on our separate flights with the Xenon engines. I don't think we're even going to... I mean, we're not going to impact the sun, right? These things are going to burn up before they get there, I think. I don't know what's going to happen with the heat shield. That's going to be very interesting. But this is going to be about an 8-minute burn. We're going to burn out everything we've got remaining in this tank, and that's just going to put us in this orbit here, which is not quite a circular orbit, but it's fairly close. And then we're just going to look to drop those orbits as far as we can. These may end up just being very, very close. But, I mean, the heat is going to be incredible at that distance. So let's get aligned for this burn, and we'll see how this ends up going. It's going to be very interesting, for sure. Cool. So that's going to be in about 131 days, so over we go, and we're heading on over to Kerbal. We are currently, or we were going up a bit, but now we're falling down, and we'll see this orbital velocity just go up, 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 up. It's going to be really, really high once we get down to our periapsis here in about 50 days. Cool. So yeah, look at that speed. Xenon engines, if we had stacked more Xenon on here, probably could have dropped us lower. But for now, this'll do. So it doesn't really matter when we commence this burn. I'm going to do it now. And we'll just bring this right on down. And we're just going to burn this entire tank out. So I just want to be parked at retrograde, and we're just going to burn the tank out here. We already passed the periapsis here, so this is fine. I mean, I would prefer it to be a little before the periapsis, but whatever. It's close enough. Waiting isn't going to help, is what I'm saying here. So that's fine. We're going to... Look at that, 2,300. Yeah, each of these is only about 5K. I may have underestimated how much Delta V it takes to do this sort of a maneuver. That's a distinct possibility. Now, to be clear, you can find more efficient ways to do it with gravity assists with Eve and Moho on the way in to further lower it. That's a very, very complicated maneuver to plan out, and not something that's really within my skill set to do. So we're not going to do that for right now. But we're just continuing to brake here, and this is all about slowing down our apoapsis height. Cool. Now, I don't know how much we can really do with 5K as far as getting closer to the sun. We've got a lot of speed here. If we really wanted to guarantee it, we would need to roughly quadruple the amount of fuel we have here, which could be done via drop tanks, I suppose. That's a possibility. And maybe that's something we want to do. We could call these relay satellites for now for such an event and relaunch this with drop tanks out here with, you know, like 4 each Xenon tanks that flow in. It would be expensive, but it is a theoretical possibility. We could work on that. Now we're going to drop out all of our fuel here. So we're just about burned out here. We've got about another 10 seconds of burn time here. That brings us down to almost exactly 20 kilometers per second. Okay. So now I'm going to deploy one of these satellites, and that'll be this one. And we'll just let it get some distance here. We'll extend out our solar panels here, and we'll get those deployed. There we go. And then do we just immediately inflate the heat shield? We certainly could. So the idea here at this point would be that we are in surface up, right? So the heat shield would block the sunlight. Actually, kill that rot. No, I don't think we're going to hit that. Okay. So we're in surface up here. Like this. So that this area is all shaded by the heat shield. And only the solar panels poke out. That's the concept here. Direct sunlight, direct sunlight, direct sunlight, and direct sunlight. So that definitely works. There's no doubt about that. The question now is, oh, these are actually like 10,000. I thought they were 5,000. We can definitely get further with that. So if we were to have our apoapsis here, and this is going to be a very long burn. A very, 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 very long burn. If we were going to have our apoapsis here, we might actually be able to do this with 10,000. Yeah, I think we can. That's 8,000 there. 9,000. And that is over what we have. So we'd be looking to do this probably from... That's interesting. Okay, so we'd be looking to do this probably from about here to hit the north. Now, to be clear, I don't think we're going to survive even getting this close. That's not that close to the sun. This is all of the delta V that we have here. So we could try to find a more efficient transfer, but I want to prioritize hitting the solar system north here, which is kind of hard to figure out, isn't it? Because we could be here, we could be here. Yeah, how are we going to determine that? From the backdrop, maybe? Yeah, we could decree that this direction is north. So we can see that we've got like the center of the nebula there, right? So that way would be north. So then we would be looking to do this burn around here-ish, or we could go east-west, which is honestly probably the easiest way to go. But coming out over here, this is going to be substantially higher for the amount of delta V that we need. This, we can certainly make happen. For sure. That's definitely something that we can do. And it's going to be a very, very, very long burn. A 3-hour, 15-minute burn. That's insane. But we knew that would be the case with Xenon engines. That's just the way Xenon engines work, right? So, yeah, that's a theoretical possibility. That burn is going to be in about 38 days. So, let's swap over to this guy at this point. And let's separate this. This is going to become space junk. This decouples. Oh, that was energetic. Oh, because we're in physics warp still. That would do it. So we're going to hop out over here. We're going to extend these solar panels as well. And we will extend our arms and inflate our heat shield. Okay. So that is our 2 probes in position. We know that we have one coming in on this side. So, as a hypothetical, if we were to add a maneuver here to circularize, the circularization would be about 1,200 meters per second, right? But there's not actually a point, because we want to burn from this side anyway to come in over here. So how much can we actually get away with? And when would that periapsis be in? 22 days? Okay. I think what we do is we just burn out all of the fuel that we have here. Which puts us about here, you know? Something like that. So, really, we should burn this about as late as possible. Right? But it's because we're in this elliptical orbit. So this one is a quote-unquote crash. This one is going to be like a low-ish orbit, but it's not going to be a crash just because we're in this elliptical orbit. This is what we have the fuel for. So I think that's fine. We have one of these that is getting data and may or may not survive. The other one that will get some data and will definitely not survive. Okay, so let's make our way over this way to the node. We know that node is going to be in about 1 day. Now, even with physics warp on, it's going to take over an hour. Or, no, not over an hour. Almost an hour of burn time to get this going. That's spicy. The good news is it's time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just thinking here about how my next episode is going to be structured. We're going to have 2, like, hour-long burns. Yikes. That's definitely a yikes. But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to try to get at least, well, this encounter here is going to happen. I was going to say I should get both burns done before we come back. This encounter is going to happen before this burn starts. So when we come back, this burn will be close to the end, but the other burn can't have started yet. Okay, that's going to be awkward. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Shadowwolf, Mlohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kentogan, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. Actually, since we're just burning them out, I can just kind of turn it on and walk away. Can't I? Yeah, I can, because there's absolutely no problem with overshooting it. We're going to burn all the fuel. That should be fine. Okay, see you all next time.